And now it's time for another edition of What Would Jello Do? Anybody who's seen these has heard me rant and rave and tear what's left of my hair out about being quote unquote represented for decades in my congressional district by your friend and mine, Nancy Pelosi. I don't find myself agreeing with her often, but I hate to admit it, I sure do on this. She's right about being really, really careful when it comes to impeaching Trump. Just to impeach a guy for the sake of impeaching a guy is just a dog and pony show thing like they did to Bill Clinton, and look what happened there. I mean, granted, they're trying to withhold all these documents that would be more damning evidence that collusion with the Russians or obstruction of justice pales in comparison to all the other corrupt things he and his family have been doing. The point being, you to impeach, you need a slam dunk. Because impeachment doesn't mean convicted of anything. It's the equivalent of the House of Representatives indicting somebody, not even necessarily for crimes, but just high crimes, misdemeanors that somebody should be removed from office for. The Senate then tries the accused, and this is where it gets tricky. They can't remove from office until they get a 2/3 majority to convict. And that Senate is so corrupt. I just don't see how you could get a 2/3 majority to convict, even if Trump showed up with some of his white supremacist friends with machine guns and killed half the people in the Senate chamber. They would still vote to keep him in office, even though they all hate his guts behind his back. They love the tax scam. They're getting away with looting the store like never before. They love putting these borderline neo-Nazis and religious fanatics on the Supreme Court and packing the federal courts all the way down. They don't want to lose the scam because they can't get away with it if Mitt Romney becomes president or Pence or Governor Sick in Ohio or whatever. They'll do anything to keep him there. And even if he was convicted and removed from office, then what happens? We've never found out. The whole reason we got Nixon rode out of town on a rail for a tiny amount of what Trump or the Bushes or Reagan actually did and got away with is because he completely lost the support of his own party, as well as the Democrats. And I think it was the House Minority Leader, somebody just marched into Tricky Dick's office. Look, the gig is up. Don't put the country through an impeachment trial. It's going to be near unanimous to get rid of you, and you're out. And the other problem is, as you could see with Bill Clinton, you impeach somebody and you don't get the 2/3 majority to remove from office, then the target becomes more powerful than ever before. And that's the last thing we want, is a failed removal of Trump from office this way. People tried that with a recall election with that horrible Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin. And yeah, the vote was close and might have gone to recall if a president who promised hope and change, who was campaigning in Minnesota the day before, stopped by Wisconsin before he went back to Washington. But no. Walker not only survived the recall, he was more powerful than ever before, got to pick judges and everything else, and he even got another term. Another example, early on in her first term, another one of my least favorite people in San Francisco who's done so much damage, Dianne Franken-Feinstein, was the subject of a citywide recall as mayor for really stupid reasons. She basically, one of the issues she's good on is guns, and she got a handgun ban through San Francisco, which of course was thrown out by the courts later, but then used the guns that had turned in, melted down the guns, and presented them in the form of a cross to the Pope when she met him. That's Feinstein for you. But the premise for recalling her was so preposterous that every single person who was planning to challenge her and maybe knock her off for mayor in the 1983 election all lined up behind her, and she ran in 83 and got another term practically unopposed. That you don't want either. You know, you can't get rid of Trump this way unless it's an absolute slam dunk, and the Lindsey Grahams and even the Mitch McConnells are like, okay, this is so bad, this guy's got to go. And they have no shame. Another example, it's not just presidents who get impeached. In 1989, a federal judge appointed 10 years earlier by Jimmy Carter named Alcee Hastings was impeached and tried, at least by a committee in the Senate, for accepting a $150,000 bribe. He was removed from the bench. Does he go off in disgrace? Hardly. Removed in '89, and in 1992, the district in West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale sent him to Congress. 27 years later, Alcee Hastings is still there. So, as much as I'd love to see Trump impeached, you need the really good evidence and you need more. Maybe impeaching Barr first might partway get you there, except that you need 2/3 vote to get rid of him too. Good luck.